Going on, everyone? John Matrix here. Hope you're all having a wonderful day wherever you're at and whenever you're watching this. Today we are again jumping back into the SCP universe. We have a requested video here for one of my YouTube members, SCP 4001 Alexandria Eternal. So we're going to check that out here today from the Exploring series. Links will be down below in the description to the original video here without my commentary and reaction, and to the Exploring series channel. If you would please do me the favor of clicking those links. If you enjoy the original video from the Exploring series, please go over there and give it a like. And if you enjoy the man's content, please do me a favor, go over there and give him a sub. Makes a lot of great content for the SCP universe as well as others, so please show the man some support. He definitely deserves it. If you would like to come and join the discussions that we have when I do these reactions live for my YouTube members, we would love to have you guys come in here, hang out, give your theory, speculations, join the discussions, you know, etc., whatever talking points you want to bring up for the videos. Love to have you guys come in here and do so. There is a join button down below, as well as a link in the description to the YouTube membership benefits and the tiers that I offer. You can get up to a week's worth of early access to my videos. You can get greater priority in any videos that you request. You know, there's a sub Discord channel, etc. So check those out if you decide you would like to become a member and take your support to the next level and help me out monetarily. Doing so obviously allows me to focus more on making YouTube my living and doing this more often, getting more videos out for you guys on a regular basis. So we greatly appreciate it. But regardless, I just appreciate you guys taking the time out of your busy day to come hang out, watch the videos. It means a lot. Thank you for doing so. Just a quick public service announcement. If you are a YouTube member, obviously you don't have to join our Discord if you don't want to, but if you would like to join our Discord, please be sure to connect your YouTube account with Discord. Make sure those are synced so that you can get access to the various sub channels and whatnot, etc. So with all that being said, shameless plugs done. Let's get into this video. So again, this is SCP 4001 Alexandria Eternal by the Exploring series. So do this.
SCP 4001.
So I assume this has something to do with the Library of Alexandria. Maybe not. Could have something to do with else, you know. But going off of obviously the art here, but just in general the idea of Alexandria, it could be the city of Alexandria, one of the cities of Alexandria that, you know, Alexander created. But I'm assuming it has something to do with the library itself. And I'm wondering if it has some kind of connection with, I forget what the library was called that was mentioned in the Serpent's Hand video, the Eternal Library or something like that. I forget what it's called, but I wonder if it has something to do, some kind of connection or affiliation with that. But anyway, let's get into this.
Alexandria Eternal. The Great Library of Alexandria in Egypt is one of the most well-known libraries in history, and easily one of the largest of the ancient world.
Yeah, I would be. It's obviously, it's kind of one of those things that's been passed on by legend as to what actually was in the Library of Alexandria and what knowledge was lost. I don't know if there is a specific reason as to why it was burned down, other than I guess just, you know, city being invaded at some point in time. But if I had a time machine and could understand, you know, the ancient languages, you know, written and spoken of those times, I would want to go back in time and see the Library of Alexandria and just to sate my curiosity of what actually was in it, what did it look like, how grand was it, and yeah, just what kind of knowledge was actually stored there. If it was just, you know, regular common works of, you know, art from the time, people writing books, etc., or if it was actual, you know, ancient secret knowledges of some sorts that, you know, were lost for eternity that, who knows, you know, could change various things and technologies and understanding that we have now. Like, for example, you know, the Antikythera device, I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. It's basically some kind of like, ancient GPS system they think that really helped mariners at some point in time, you know, track the movement of the stars and gave them an idea of where their positioning was in the world. I believe that's what it did, or at least that's what it's theorized that it did. So I mean, like, you're talking about, I believe it's been dated for 7,000 years ago too. So I mean, like, you know, ancient Greece, Egyptian, Roman times, you know. So it's like there's definitely some knowledge that has been lost to history, and who knows what it would be like. But anyway, let's continue with the video.
Although by modern comparison, where big libraries hold millions of books, the Library of Alexandria seems a little small, but it was incredibly significant at the time, making the city of Alexandria a center of knowledge and learning. Influential scholars, mathematicians, authors, and others flocked to the city and the library to share their knowledge and expand the great collection of scrolls. In time, though, due to fires and a turning away from intellectualism, the library fell to ruin, and by the 4th century, likely nothing was left of the Great Library. SCP-4001 tells a different story, though, of a library located in Alexandria that has stood the test of time for millennia. If the actual Library of Alexandria had been located, it likely wouldn't interest the Foundation much, but SCP-4001 turned out to be quite a bit more than that. SCP-4001 is a library, obviously, located underneath the city of Alexandria in Egypt. The entrance to it is now surrounded by a warehouse on a block owned and protected by the SCP Foundation.
Of course.
Going down the staircase at the entrance eventually leads to an extra-dimensional space, 312 meters wide, hundreds of kilometers in length, and an indeterminate height. It seems that it's impossible to go more than 25 meters above the floor.
Someone created their own back rooms and made it a library.
Due to the anomalous effects, resulting in you staying at the same height. Another anomalous effect occurs if you continue to walk in the same direction long enough, resulting in you coming back to where you started.
Interesting.
It's also possible, with equipment or under the right lighting conditions, to see oneself in the far distance. The library itself is, of course, filled with bookshelves.
So it has like... Is it like a reflection of you, or is it actually like another version of you in the distance? Interesting.
The library itself is, of course, filled with bookshelves. Many bookshelves, with identical dimensions and in orderly rows for hundreds of kilometers. Modern-style couches are placed every 20 meters along the main walkway, and every 5th bookshelf has an electric lamp attached to it, which are the only light sources within the library. Because of this layout, it can be very easy to lose oneself within the library, with only the staircase as a distinct marking point.
Interesting.
The books located within SCP-4001 are all non-fiction, as all the books each correspond to a single human life, detailing a person's entire life to date.
Interesting. So it's literally like the history of the world by person. Every life that has ever existed has been written down and put into a book form. Interesting. That honestly would be it. To me, that would be kind of interesting. To me, like, I don't know, getting into kind of like an existential crisis talk kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Like, it's always sad to me that, like, the idea that after someone dies a few generations, their memory essentially is gone, and they truly aren't necessarily gone. You know, they're other than, you know, someone who has made, you know, a real lasting legacy, created works of art, books, poetry, music, etc., movies, you know, but there's however many trillions of people who have lived that no one knows about or don't remember, etc. So the idea of being able to, like, go to a library and actually take a book off and just read someone's life, to me, would be very fascinating. I could sit there, honestly, probably for hours upon hours, just looking through books and flipping through pages of people's lives and just reading what they did and how they lived their lives. To me, that would be fascinating, honestly.
The information contained in a person's book is entirely factual and accurate, making SCP-4001 an unprecedented wealth of knowledge.
No shit.
The books are organized based on date of birth, and new shelves and books are constantly being spontaneously created as new humans are born. Each book is the same size, regardless of the number of pages in the book, about the size of a standard paperback. The books are written in an unknown language that anomalously is comprehensible by anyone who reads it.
So it has like a universal
By
language.
the Foundation's estimate, there are currently 120 billion books held within SCP-4001.
Wow, 120 billion.
And the number grows every day. These books can be removed from shelves and freely read, scanned, copied, and photographed. And if returned to any shelf in the library, they will disappear and reappear in its proper location.
That's cool.
If removed from the library, it will also disappear and reappear in its proper location.
Makes sense.
If that were it would still be really impressive. And
so it's interesting that you can take a book down, copy it, scan it, whatever, and then that scan becomes real and you can leave with it. But, you know, you can't actually physically take the book out of the library itself. It'll just reappear back to where its place is supposed to be. Interesting. I wonder if the SCP Foundation has actually like dedicated teams to take the time to like literally copy every book down just to have like an actual physical hard copy to look through, have their own database of, you know, that information. I don't know. Interesting.
And really useful to the Foundation. If that were it would still be really impressive and really useful to the Foundation. But the real kicker is if something in any of the books is altered. Changing any detail in an individual's past will retroactively change history.
Really? That is very fascinating then. You can literally, so like, can you destroy a book? You know what I mean? Is there a situation where we could like literally like, oh, this is Hitler's book, burn it. Oh, this is Genghis Khan's book, burn it. You know, go through history and pluck different people who've had major events, you know, in history, take them and like Alexander the Great, for example, who made the city of Alexandria and the library. Could you like take his book, burn it, and then the library would no longer exist, kind of a situation? Or would it change, and is the library like one of those things that where it's inevitable that someone would have eventually created it and it just would be different history? That's honestly, it's very fascinating. So you could change details in people's lives, which would alter history potentially for who knows what and who knows what way. They've already kind of talked about that a little bit, I think, with the Davites, right? With like the book that stuff keeps getting added to it, and it seems like it might be like potentially altering or changing reality to benefit the Davites in some way, if I remember correctly. So I wonder if this is somehow related in some way, like the same kind of, I don't know, same person or same kind of technology created both anomalies, or if they're somehow related, if the book from the Davites somehow was actually through some kind of magic or technology was able to be removed from the library itself without it disappearing, and so has been separate and has then been, you know, able to alter history for them throughout time, or, you know, I don't know. Interesting.
With the new detail becoming the factual reality. Memories, locations, physical structures, physical states, and even complete existences can be changed, created, or wiped out entirely.
That's fascinating.
With even small alterations done. Adding a new...
I mean, yeah, it's the butterfly effect, you know, like the smallest thing. The further back in time you go, the smallest alteration will have the greatest ripple effects. Like if I were to like have a time machine and go back in time to yesterday, unless it was like some kind of like literal major event in the world that happened, like the start of a war or something like that. If you were to go back in time yesterday and alter something, you know, so that it prevented the war from happening, you know, that would be one thing. But generally speaking, you know, if you just go back in time a day and alter something, it shouldn't have that big of effect on the timeline, you know what I mean? But the further back you go, the more impact you're going to have.
New detail to a person's book who is still living will cause that event to transpire at the first possible opportunity, such as a decision, or a change in personality, or a change in health, or a notable event, etc. This effect is similar to SCP-140, another book that can rewrite history to favor the mysterious Davites, but this effect is far more nuanced. It's no wonder that the Foundation has such secure containment procedures, including a memetic hazard on the
That'd be
file
a big
itself, making it more akin to an SCP-001 file than a standard document. 4001 was first found by a group of archaeologists in the 1800s during a dig in Alexandria. The Foundation swooped in, amnesticized the archaeologists, and continued to operate the dig site for a few months to keep up appearances. Teams were sent into 4001 to scout it out, placing flags as markers in various locations, and a couple of weeks after starting their explorations, a team encountered a living individual within the library.
Really?
This individual refers to himself as the Watcher of Alexandria Eternal, and has been inside of the library for nearly 2,000 years. We'll get back to him in a second.
Okay.
Due to the sheer size of 4001, the Foundation has so far set up 7 camps within the library, each containing their own generators, water filters, and beacons to help locate it. The first camp is located at the start, near the books detailing the first humans, as well as where new shelves and books are added, causing other shelves to continually expand out.
So that's interesting too, when you think about it. So like he said, the books detailing the first humans, like how far back does that go? Like, would this library essentially prove the theory of evolution in that the first books were humans, like pre-modern humans, back when we were, I guess, closer potentially to chimpanzees or some other kind of, you know, ape-like creature? You know, is that where it starts, or is it a situation where it's like the first modern day humans, and then what kind of implications would that be? You know what I mean? Like, as far as proving or disproving the theory of evolution in the SCP universe. That also could just be a situation where it's like when the library was created, then it started cataloging the first humans from then. You know, I don't know, but interesting.
Second camp is located currently 20 kilometers away, where the first births of the year 2000 are detailed. Third camp is 130 kilometers away from base camp, where the book detailing Albert Einstein's life is located. Other camps are made next to Leonardo da Vinci, Charlemagne, Marcus Aurelius, and finally the founders of the city-state of Ur. It can take days or even weeks to walk between camps, so it's recommended to use a bicycle and carry supplies of food and water. Based on the Foundation's best guesses, the earliest books correspond to human lives dating back 75,000 years, although since no dates are used, it's a little tricky to pin down for sure.
Right.
These early books use titles rather than names for identification, such as Firebringer, Chief, or Friend Killer.
Interesting. So again, kind of that's like caveman times. Yeah. Firebringer would obviously allude to the first person who came up with how to make fire. Friend Killer maybe would be like the first murderer. I don't know. Interesting.
Fortunately, these books are in the same condition as the newest books, so nothing is falling apart or fading. The books seem to confirm the Toba catastrophe theory, that the eruption of the Toba supervolcano about 75,000 years ago caused a population bottleneck in humanity, meaning that today's humans are descended from a very small surviving population. Another morbid fact about the library is that as many as half of all the books lack names or titles, and many more are simply titled The Baby or The Infant, due to a
Interesting too that so it indicates that humanity so like the library almost seems to start monitoring humanity after that volcano event, right? 75,000 years ago. So is that essentially really when the library was created? And then who created it? You know? Interesting.
a baby dying before being named. The Foundation is planning on installing new camps every decade and putting in a monorail to facilitate travel across the ever-expanding library.
Jesus, a monorail? I mean, yeah.
Let's go
Takes
back
weeks
to
to
the
get from
Watcher
one
of
camp to another.
Alexandria Eternal, though, as an interview was conducted in ancient Greek with him. He appears to be a human male, and although it's certainly anomalous that he's still alive after so long,
Oh shit.
he is not healthy enough to leave the library. The man immediately warns the interviewer that if they disturb the shelves, they will be cursed, but the Foundation doctor brushes that off. The man asks if they are with the Roman Republic, and is quite surprised to learn that the Roman Empire collapsed some 1400 years ago. The last thing he
Interesting.
remembers is the unrest over the new queen, Cleopatra VII, who came into power in the year 51 BCE. He is also surprised that the Foundation has read some of the sacred texts and have not been judged, suggesting that their incursion might not be a violation of something.
Interesting. So I wonder if this is also one of those things where, like, there's always a keeper, you know what I mean? Like, somehow someone will be chosen in some way if this man, you know, eventually does die, because he says he's been in there for 2,000 years, but he's also ill, or at least, you know, it seems like his health is starting to fail him. So does the library like pick someone to be the keeper? And that's what their kind of eternal duty is, to, like, you know, monitor and I guess somewhat safeguard the library. Interesting.
He properly introduces himself as Theopolis, the Watcher of Alexandria Eternal, the most important thing in the world. He claims that it is a gift from the gods, all of them, including the Greek gods, the Egyptian gods, and perhaps even the Hebrew god. Although he doesn't know how old the library is, he knows it's older than the city, as Alexander built the city on top of it. The Watchers of 4001, before the birth of Theopolis, built the actual library of Alexandria on top of it, an archive over an archive. Only a very small number of them knew of the secret door that led down here, and not even the pharaohs knew of it.
Interesting.
Theopolis has spent some time searching for the true name of 4001, but for now it's just Alexandria Eternal. When the Library of Alexandria burned, he fled down here and has been here ever since. He pauses the interview to pull a scroll from his robes, unrolling it and pricking his finger to write a sentence on it in blood. He says that he has done that to give himself another day, as that scroll is his life story.
Interesting. So he's
When
keeping
he
himself
first
alive
fled
by
down
doing
here,
that.
He quickly ran out of food and water, so he found his own book and wrote new text that brought him back to health.
I mean, that's smart. That's smart. Yeah. I wonder, so like, he could even, could you then essentially just like write in your own book that, hey, I am now a god of everything? And then bam, at that point you become the god, like the most, could you write you become the most powerful being ever to exist, ever to be created, and then you become that, you know, as like, is the potential of what you can do to your own book in the library that great? But, you know, the other idea, you know, you could sit there and write in, you know, I found food and water, and a companion showed up, and, you know, so you're not alone. And like, the possibilities, I guess, would be like endless. It's almost like essentially whatever you write down in your book, you could like literally manifest. It's not, interesting.
When asked how he found the will to survive for so long, Theopolis explains that the library needed him, as she always needs someone to appreciate her. He also says that she sometimes speaks to him when he loses hope, telling him to keep waiting. Theopolis has walked the entire library many times and read many of the books. Originally, all of the books were scrolls, like his that he keeps on him, and eventually they became bound tomes before becoming modern books. The lamps were originally torches and candles, and the couches were originally woven benches. Theopolis has waited through.
It's interesting that it's evolved over time with technology.
Through all of this, hoping that someone will show up and tell him that his waiting has not been in vain. He asks the researcher who the current pharaoh is, and is told that there is no pharaoh, and the Roman Empire's collapse led to a number of empires. Theopolis ponders momentarily if things would have been different if they had been more open about Alexandria Eternal, but then thinks better of it before asking the researcher their plans for this place.
I mean, the potential for something like this to be abused by any kind of power-hungry person, no. Like, you could literally dominate the world just by changing a few scrolls of text. You write that, I create an empire that rules the world, for the next 100,000 years.
Secure, contain, protect, of course, but Theopolis wonders if they plan to use it. The researcher is honest, saying that they might, but they will be cautious and only use it if necessary. Theopolis must have sensed that the Foundation were trustworthy enough, and so asked if he could see the sky again. He is granted permission to leave, speaks with the researcher some more as they watch the sunrise, and then Theopolis passes. Well, since we've got an anomaly that can permanently alter someone's life and history,
no shit,
let's crack open some D-Class. They started simple, writing in one individual's book that they lost all their hair, causing the D-Class to immediately begin losing hair, becoming bald after 75 seconds. Stepping up, a recently crippled
I assume that means everywhere too.
D-Class was taken, and the line in their book about breaking their back while escaping from an SCP was erased. The woman suffered a slight nosebleed and a headache, but a couple minutes later was able to walk normally, with no recollection of being injured. A senior researcher on the project got a bit more bold, and used 4001 to cause an individual out in the world to die by writing that they suffer a fatal heart attack. Insert Death Note reference here, and the researcher was heavily admonished for doing so.
Yeah, no shit.
Next up, they decide to rewrite history a little further back than a few weeks, changing a D-Class from being born as a healthy baby boy to a healthy baby girl.
Yikes.
The D-Class and 26 Foundation staff members all suffered severe nosebleeds and headaches before the D-Class flickered in and out of existence before reappearing as a female. Even more interesting, the book was found for a D-Class with a specific history of sexual assault, and also the book for one of his victims, a young girl he murdered. The line in the D-Class's book about how he murdered the girl was erased, causing him and a number of researchers to have nosebleeds and headaches, as usual, but the D-Class then disappeared completely. Reading the books, it seems that history was changed so that the D-Class died 3 years ago from a violent altercation, and the girl died in a car crash 3 days after her original murder.
Interesting. It's interesting that they altered the time so that this girl survives, but she dies anyways. It's like a Final Destination thing, where it's like, when it's your time, the universe finds a way to make it so,
A researcher suspects that her death is possibly due to the tendency of altered timelines to replicate events from the original timeline to avoid paradoxes. Testing on D-Class is all well and good, but there's some real potential benefits here for plenty of people, such as a researcher with third-stage lymphoma,
Well, and I mean, you could also do things that are like, the climate of the planet goes back to a temperate and stable state. Crops are abundant throughout the world, and everyone, there's no more, like, there's all kinds of things that you could do to solve a lot of problems. Energy, um what was the word I was looking for? Like renewable energy, that's what it was. Renewable energy, we discover a way of like true renewable reusable energy that has no negative side effects. We solve world hunger, we solve disease. There's any number of amazing crazy things that you could write in any history book. And I mean, like, again, you talk about creating a legacy. Like, you could literally write in the book of your own life that you solve world hunger, you solve climate problems, you solve disease, and all, like, talk about creating a better world.
Line was added to her book stating that she was spontaneously cured of cancer, causing her to show immediate signs of recovery. Unfortunately, the lymphoma symptoms returned 7 months later.
Interesting.
Either due to poor wording in the text, or perhaps the same effect causing altered events to correct themselves. Don't worry, we've got more to go.
Definitely seems like a situation, though, where, like, if someone, although I was gonna say it's a situation where it seems like, yeah, you can't, like, it seems like there is an element of fate where if you're meant to die at a certain time, or certain events are supposed to happen to you, the universe will find a way to make it happen. But maybe it's a situation where if you're in the library itself, that might, like, free you from the bounds of those issues, because the library keeper, Thermopylae, right? And I think that's what his name was. He, lived for several thousand years by just giving himself a new day in his book or in his scroll. So obviously there are ways around it. But the caveat to his story is that he was in the library itself for 2,000 years. So maybe the library itself has some kind of sway over fate and from people in some certain way. Because he said the library needed him, et cetera, et cetera. And maybe that was the case. Maybe the library actually did need some kind of keeper at some point in time. And so he was fated to get locked down in the library when the one that Alexander created was burned above, et cetera, et cetera. Who knows? But it's interesting.
And the Foundation gets pretty creative. They take a blank book matching the style of the ones found in 4001 and write a fictional life story for a fictional man.
I'm trying to create
Adams.
someone.
Henry's fictional life contains no connections to any significant figures in history, and is perfectly ordinary, except for him ending up inside of SCP-4001.
They say Henry Adams isn't he one of the forefathers of America?
The book is placed on the correct shelf corresponding to his birth date, and suddenly a semi-opaque man showing signs of disorientation appears in 4001. He quickly began rocking back and forth, curled up in a ball, before vomiting blood, as his book began rapidly adding lines detailing his sudden mass organ failure and tumors.
Jesus.
Henry Adams, taken too soon from this world, died a couple minutes later. The book also disappeared completely 24 hours later, and
it almost, yeah, it seems like the library has some kind of conscience in some way. And, like, it understands that that's not a real person and shouldn't be created.
it would seem that whatever force is responsible for the library didn't care for that experiment too much.
Yeah.
Or maybe it did. Since bringing fictional people to life didn't turn out too well, they next tried bringing the dead back to life. A D-Class is lethally injected, and after the line about him dying through cruel and unnecessary poisoning is added to his book, the Foundation adds that he spontaneously resuscitated. Aside from coughing violently and losing some brain power due to lack of oxygen in his brain for a bit, the D-Class fully recovered.
Well, couldn't you write that his brain
That's
fully
handy,
heals?
but that was an immediate resuscitation, so let's see a bit longer of a period. A D-Class that had died 3 days prior during a containment breach is brought back by removing the line about being torn in half and crushed by a rampaging monster.
Yikes.
She reappeared immediately in her quarters, but wouldn't respond to any questions, and suffered from severe headaches for 8 days. She showed moderate disorientation for another 15 days before committing suicide. And all she said during the whole period was, "Send me back. Let me go." Okay, well, she did make a recovery of sorts, but not exactly viable.
Right.
The Foundation, being as they are, then brought back a D-Class who had been killed in a containment breach a month prior. He did immediately reappear, but was suffering from cerebral hemorrhaging and died 13 minutes later. Definitely not viable. The woman with lymphoma was given another chance, though, with a line that she was spontaneously and permanently cured of cancer and all other diseases added. She again showed immediate signs of recovery, but the symptoms returned after 2 years, despite the inclusion of the word permanent. Still, if all you have to do is write a line in a book, that's not a bad deal.
I mean, right, yeah. Just keep adding to that. And I mean, it kind of, I guess, makes sense with, the Keeper, because he kept having to add a new line to it. So maybe that's like the secret. It's like, you have to keep updating it. You have to keep writing more to it in order for it to, like, keep going. Otherwise, again, the universe kind of goes back to what your original fate is supposed to be in some ways.
For the final test, they took the book for another D-Class who had died 2 days prior, and added the line, "Returned back to life in full and proper health, free from all infirmities physical, physiological, and psychological." The results are not detailed, but a Foundation site was heavily damaged, and the researcher responsible was removed.
The fuck?
It seems that attempting something that drastic was an affront to something. This also resulted in the cessation of all experiments with 4001 involving bringing back the dead, as it just doesn't seem to work too well.
Yeah, it doesn't seem
Some years
good
after the discovery of 4001, rather than trying to tackle the task of compiling all the information in the library themselves, 2 robotic AIs were developed for that purpose. They were dubbed Marvin and Molly, Marvin being a reference to the bot used on the SCP subreddit, who is commonly referred to as Marv. Their first task was simply to catalog every single name on every book in the library, a task which took the two 12 years to complete. During the process, they stumbled across 3 skeletons deep within 4001, 2 human and 1 horse, believed to have entered the library sometime in the 4th century BCE.
interesting.
Now, Molly adds new names to the database as they appear, and Marvin, equipped with wings enabling flight speeds up to 250 kilometers per hour within the library, helps staff locate and collect any book they request. Years after the introduction of the 2 robots, a book was found in 4001 titled Marvin and Molly.
Interesting.
The robots were temporarily removed from the library, at which point the book disappeared, so the robots were brought back a week later. The book reappeared with the line, "Marvin and Molly were returned to their true place of belonging, undoing the cruelty and callousness of their departure."
Interesting. So, I mean, yeah, it definitely seems like the library is alive in some kind of conscious way. That's fascinating.
The rest of the staff working on 4001 really care for the 2 robots, considering them part of the team, and it seems that the force in charge of 4001 considers them to be honorary librarians. Not all was fine and dandy after the Foundation took over, and at one point they got a pretty clear reminder of what could go wrong with this place. An individual working for the Foundation entered 4001 using proper clearance, and had Marvin collect a book for them. 7 hours later, 43 Foundation staff suffered from nosebleeds and headaches, leading a team to find the individual responsible inside of the library, disoriented, with a book at their feet. The book was for a Dr. Junifer Peters, who had a successful career at the Foundation, as well as a romance-turned-spiteful rivalry with the individual responsible. As part of this rivalry, this person had torn out the first page of Junifer's book. The Foundation immediately tried to repair the book using a needle and spool of thread, resulting in an unidentified woman flickering in and out of Foundation headquarters, screaming in panic. She eventually completely disappeared and has not been seen since. No records exist for a Dr. Junifer Peters, and no staff recall ever meeting her.
That's fucked up.
The archive manager insists that no non-archivist personnel, regardless of rank, are to be in 4001 alone, as all it takes is one early page ripped out to break all of human history. The final addendum relates to an experiment in which the O5 Council agreed to allow part of the floor of 4001 to be excavated to see what is underneath it. I'm not entirely sure why that needed to be done at all,
right?
But it's all in the name of science. They didn't go that far though, simply removing a 1 meter square of the carpet, finding a concrete floor and a layer of ash. The ash was sampled, the carpet was replaced, and that was the end of the exploration attempt. Carbon dating of the ash suggested it to be between 70,000 and 80,000 years old, created from the burning of wood and paper.
I mean, again, it was kind of stated that the books from the first humans were around 75,000-ish years ago from, you know, a super volcano eruption event that, you know, brought the human population down to almost nothing. I wonder if one of the surviving people at that time created this library, like through whatever magics, technology, or whatever kind of anomalous things, you know, that they may have had available to them at some time. They did something that created this to record, and like almost kind of an anomalous version of SCP-2000. And then there's always supposed to be a keeper, right? So that, like, I don't know. Because I was thinking, like, if there's a keeper and humanity gets wiped out and no more books are then created, they could then write books to make people. But they tried that experiment and it didn't seem to work out very well. Though I guess you could still say, like, maybe it wasn't done in a proper way. Because, like, if you take your own book and you write in your own book on this day of this time of this year, I met a new person. You know, let's say you're stuck in the library and you write that, and then wouldn't another human appear? Like, couldn't you keep doing that? And then, you know, state that multiple people keep appearing and new families and bloodlines and whatever, and then, you know, humanity could restart itself and go back out from the library out into the world, kind of a situation. You know, I don't know. Interesting.
It would also seem that this ash is located beneath most, if not all, of the carpet of the library. There is no record of a major fire within SCP-4001. Remember earlier when I said that the earliest books in the library were about 75,000 years old?
Right.
And it confirmed the theory that today's humans developed from a very small pool. Thanks to the accompanying tale, Alexandria Burning, we get the whole story. To summarize it, basically, around that time period, there were billions of humans living on Earth in great advanced civilizations.
Yeah.
Alongside them was a group called the Organization, basically the Foundation, who contained anomalies, including Alexandria Eternal. The Toba supervolcano did go off, but that wasn't what wiped out everyone. Instead, shortly after that, global tensions hit their peak, and thermonuclear war broke out, or more accurately, mutually assured destruction. Nearly 10,000 nukes were launched around the world, wiping out humanity in the blink of an eye. One of the archivists responsible for Alexandria was safe inside of the library, but the organization was wiped out as well, including their contingency plan, the facility we know as SCP-2000.
2000, yeah.
With these events, it was pretty much game over, but fortunately for us, the archivist inside of the library happened to have an anomaly on hand that could rewrite history. She managed to converse with the entity responsible for the library, who informed her that the only way to save the world from humanity's failures was to extinguish all trace of them. She poured gasoline across much of the library and lit it all on fire, erasing their species from existence. In the wake of this, though, with history rewritten, a new species emerged, Homo sapiens.
Interesting.
With the first one being born about 75,000 years ago.
So is this the tale of Bigfoot? Right? Because the idea of like Bigfoot was the primary race in the SCP universe. They were a highly advanced race of people. Humans existed, but they were small in number and were, I guess, very primitive. But some kind of event happened and the Bigfoot species were literally like wiped out overnight. Supposedly there was also a fairy that was involved. So maybe this is what this tale is alluding to. Maybe this is alluding to them. Maybe this fairy, convinced some people to attack each other, and a thermonuclear war happened and they wiped themselves out. And so this keeper of, the library burned the records from that species, and then humanity was allowed to grow and take over, and the library concentrated on them. Interesting.
Ago. The current archive manager leaves a note discussing SCP-4001 and Alexandria, the name for the force responsible for the library. He remarks that 4001 is potentially the greatest tool for the Foundation's success.
No shit.
But also the greatest weapon for the destruction of humanity.
Yeah.
The library has a personality, though, and it watches those who work inside of it, passing judgment on their actions. The archive manager had read the book of the researcher who had performed all the experiments on different D-Class, and saw that Alexandria had made comments in the book, judging him for his arrogance and his attempts at playing God. As for the others who have worked and served in the library, their books contain far more positive comments, as Alexandria knows how much they care for it.
Well, in Alexandria, like the library too, like included the bots as like living beings, right? It created a book of them and had nothing but positive things to say, and made them like honorary, librarians. They essentially became part of the library.
He ends by remarking that we should never forget that this place is permitting them to be there.
Yeah.
And if they don't respect it, Alexandria could doom them all.
It's true.
Alexandria Eternal is not the flashiest of SCPs. There's no cosmic horrors, or deadly monsters, or tense exploration logs. It is, however, well written and interesting, which makes for a great SCP regardless. The realization that an entire species, very much like our own, once existed and was wiped out to pave the way for us is a chilling one, because if it happened once,
it can happen
again. Sure, the whole concept of time warping and changing the past is pretty anomalous, but at the end of the day, the adage holds true. If we don't learn from history, we are doomed to repeat it.
Yep. We got a quote at the end here. We got a quote. In the darkness, she heard a voice speak. The only way to save the world from the failures of your species is to extinguish all trace of them. She went to say, I can't, but the words caught in her throat. There was no choice here. She could, and she would. What will you do without us? In the darkness, she heard a voice speak. Start anew. Write a brighter future. That would do. Alexandria burning. Very interesting tale. Honestly, I like stuff like this fascinates me. The idea that, like, is this library actually God or a God? Or, because the library is like literally containing the fate of all humans, and the idea that you can literally rewrite your fate, like legitimately going in there and rewriting not only your fate but the fate of your entire species, you know. It's interesting that it's only humanity though too. Like, it didn't mention at all that there's anything about, you know, other animals. So, and the fact that it once was writing the history of an entirely different species. So it would seem to suggest that, I don't know, I don't want to say like the library itself is experimenting with creating sentient life, but it definitely seems like there's something more going on with it. Like it has some kind of, I don't know. Well, yeah, the idea that there was, you know, it used to catalog the species from a different species. They fought each other, were destroying the planet. One of them, who was the keeper of the library at the time, burned all their records and erased them literally from history, only for the library to start anew with a different kind of race of people, which is what modern humanity is. If it is indeed the tale of, you know, Bigfoot, and they were the race that went to war and wiped themselves out, from what I understand, you know, humanity was there. We were just a lesser species at the time, with only a few 100,000 of us around in comparison to, you know, billions of the Bigfoot species that ruled the planet at the time. So I don't know if it's a situation where the library would take whatever other life is already on the planet and start to pay attention to them and evolve them, see something of potential in different species, and, you know, and I don't know, but it's just fascinating, the idea that the library is conscious in some way, you know, whether it is God or a god, or, you know, I don't know, but it definitely is one of the more powerful SCPs for sure, because you can literally rewrite your own history, not just, you know, your own personal history, but the history of your potentially species and of the planet. You know, like I said, you could sit there and you could say that, you know, this one person cured all disease and cured world hunger and found renewable, reusable energy that had no negative side effects to the planet or anything like that, and, you know, brought our peace to humanity, and there was no more war and fighting, you know, amongst ourselves, and we began to go out and, you know, explore the stars, and we had a new Renaissance period and a new period of understanding of ourselves and of, you know, the planet. We were able to create technologies to fully explore the planet, the oceans, and, you know, other things, etc., etc. And you could do all kinds of, you know, amazing things, or you could also do all kinds of terrible things and say, you know, you become the ruler of the world, and you create a lineage that rules over the world for the next, you know, 100,000 years, kind of a thing, you know. So very interesting, very fascinating, but it also, I wonder if the library would even allow you to do that. Like, I wonder if at some point in time the library would step in and cause something to happen to break that like a negative cycle, you know? I don't know, because it seems like certain fates are inevitable regardless of what you do. So, but I like stories like that. Very fascinating, very interesting. If there's any more you know, tie-ins with Alexandria or anything like that, let me know down in the comments, because I would definitely like to learn more about the Alexandria. If there's any more tales about how it was created, who created it, why it was created, or just any more information about it, I would definitely like to know. So yeah, that was the Exploring Series SCP-4001 Alexandria Eternal. Links will be down below in the description to the original video, without my commentary and reaction, and to the Exploring Series channel. Please do me a favor, click those links. If you enjoyed his video, give it a like. And if you enjoy the content that the Exploring Series creates, please go over there and give the man a sub. He definitely deserves the love. When I do these reactions live from our YouTube members, we'd love to have you guys come in here and join our discussions.
I'm looking for Ray Finkel. I'm looking for Ray Finkel. And a clean pair of shorts. And a clean pair of shorts.
I don't know why those go off when I have them muted, but thank you for the subs very much. 2 subs, 2 new people. Speaking of, but as I was saying, doing my, shameless plug spiel, if you would like to come in and join our discussions when I do these live reactions, when I do these reactions live, I should say, we would love to have you guys come in here, give your 2 cents, speculations, thoughts, join the discussions. You can get early access to videos up to a week in advance of when they get released to the public. You can get priority on any kind of videos you request me to react to. There's a sub Discord channel, etc., etc. So there is a join button down below, as well as a link to the description to the YouTube membership benefits and the tiers that I offer. Take a look at those if you would like to, see if you have any interest in any of that. If you decide you want to take your support for me to the next level and help me out monetarily, doing so obviously allows me to focus more on doing YouTube stuff, as the dream would be to be able to do this for a living. So thank you very much for the support. Regardless, I just appreciate you guys coming and hanging out, watching the video. It means a lot. If you like this video, consider leaving a like and a sub, as it helps me and helps the channel grow. And yeah, thanks very much. Hope you're having yourselves a wonderful day whenever you watch this. See you guys in the next one.